One day removed from their first win of the season, the Nets are already gearing up to begin in-season tournament play. Group B is coming right up. Can the Nets shock the world and come out in front of the pack? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brooklyn Boys Show. I am your host, Josh Wolver, ready to chop up any and everything relating to our Brooklyn Nets here on a Thursday, November 6th edition of the Brooklyn Boys Show. On your way into the channel, smash that like button, hit subscribe. 7 shy of 500 is the new total to beat. So smash subscribe, hit like. Those help the channel growth more than you can imagine. Get questions, comments, thoughts, reactions, anything related to the Nets, anything related to basketball in the chat for us to react to later in the show. Get some discourse going. Yes, listening from you guys is the best, but even better is you guys tuning in and hitting up the comment section. Lets us know that the community is live and well. King Rebby RM, the Knicks fan, in the building today. We get to break down any and everything relating to this Nets team a day after their first win of the season and a 9-point victory last night against the Pacers. The Nets played that game extremely well. Wire to wire, they were in it the whole time, and that is what you have to look for in the in-season tournament. And moving forward, this team continues to have to put strides in the right direction, continues to have to play team basketball, complementary basketball, need some guys to step up to make some big-time shots. But at the end of the day, it boils down to this team staying competitive, and they are in a tough Group B for the 2025 in-season tournament. They have the Celtics, the Pistons, the Magic, and the Sixers, the other four in their groups. Here are the groups. If you have not seen them, NBA fans, man, that West Group A in the top left is going to be a fun one to watch, as are all of these. But, none of the Nets don't play the Knicks in this series. They don't play the Pacers, who they just beat. You look at East Group B, Celtics, Pistons, Magic, and Sixers. Those are likely all four playoff teams. So a very, very tough draw for the Brooklyn Nets. You don't get any lottery teams as you see dispersed throughout the other Eastern divisions. You also don't get probably the two heaviest hitters at the same time when you look up at Cleveland and the Knicks, and also maybe throw the Bucks in that conversation. So the Nets draw right around the middle of the pack. So when you look at it from that perspective of, well, you dodged a bullet with the Knicks and the Cavs, which you're probably already marking down as a loss if you're looking at that. And you could say, well, Nets dodged a bullet. They don't get any of the Eastern powerhouses. But at the same time, you look up and down East Group B, and these are four very strong teams that are well-rounded. Obviously, the Celtics don't have Jason Tatum, but you're talking about a Detroit Pistons team that was very close to forcing the Knicks to a Game 7 last playoffs, and a great series that was one of the more exciting ones of last year's playoffs. They played with the Knicks. You're talking about Apollo Banchero-led Magic team with firepower all around. The Wagner boys and everything going on in Orlando, how they've been able to turn around within these past 2-3 years. And then Philadelphia, who blew you up by 20 plus not a week ago with their young star in VJ Edgecombe, with Tyrese Maxey, with Joel Embiid when healthy. That is a very scary 76ers team. You might say Boston, at the end of the day, is the weakest team in this division. Remember, in the in-season tournament, each team in each division plays each other once. So the Nets begin with Detroit, which is tomorrow night. And then every Friday through November, they will play the other teams, Magic, Sixers, Celtics, every Friday night through November. Then you hit December, which is Married Tank months. Shout out to the OGs in the chat who coined that term with us. way back in August when the schedule was released. So a very tough draw in my eyes for the Nets. I think you would rather be in a division like Group A when you look at Cleveland, which is a powerhouse, and maybe you say Toronto is scary as well, but then you look around with some weak teams, Atlanta, Washington, and Indiana. Those are all probably winnable games. Or maybe even Group C. Obviously, you just lost to the Hornets, but some very solid teams in that division as well. I think the Nets came out on the losing end of their tournament place in terms of competing with 4 playoff teams, all with loaded rosters who can go deep into the bench. And that is one thing the Nets do not have. Consistent bench scoring, consistent scoring when your starters aren't out there, and being able to keep up with other teams' superstars, because we know Brooklyn does not have that X factor of their own as it stands right now. And no, I am not ready to say Michael Porter Jr. is at that point. He did have an amazing game last night against Indiana, but again, a very shaky Nets team at times that is coming into the in-season tournament 1-7 with a lot still to figure out. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're tuned in with us live. Head over to the questions, comments, thoughts. Head over to the chat right now to get those in for us to react to. Anything, everything related to the Nets. We got you right here with a little in-season tournament preview here on Thursday, November 6th. I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into the Detroit game tomorrow night, because that is the first in-season tournament game that the Nets are lined up to play. And boy, no other place to start than the man himself, Cade Cunningham. We know what he can do. We saw it in that Knicks series. Cade Cunningham, an absolute dog on the court, a bucket getter, the upgraded version of the Cam Thomases of the world. And Detroit, all around, is a solid basketball team. And boy, a little bit of an off-topic point here, but talk about quick turnarounds. The Pistons set a record for the worst record in NBA history back in 22. Turnaround. You're looking at a magnificent year last year, off to a 6-2 start themselves this season. And they're coming off a win against Utah on their home court last night. This is a Detroit team that is fiery, that is scary, and you do not want to get in their way. But boy, is there a better example of how quick an NBA franchise can turn things around than Detroit will be pleased to show you. Sean Marks, take notes. Detroit did it better than you could have imagined. From worst to competing for first, Detroit turned things around extremely, extremely well. And they got their franchise guy. That's where it started for the Pistons. Getting Cade Cunningham and building around that guy. So yes, Yegor was the 8th pick, but you better have plans like that for Yegor. If not, I will be extremely disappointed. And at the end of the day, you got to figure out that the modern NBA is getting your guy and building around him. Victor Wembanyama, Cade Cunningham, Paolo Banchero. All these teams have the keys to unlock their franchise. When, if, is a better question, probably. And when Yegor Gioman gets those keys is still a lot to be left on the table. But yeah, let's start with Cade Cunningham. For this Detroit team, he is truly the biggest threat. And my question right off the bat, who guards him? Who guards him? Because the only game the Nets win this year is against an Indiana team without a number one scorer, with Tyrese Halliburton done for another at least 6 months, you'd imagine. Probably, maybe he comes back for the playoffs if everything goes perfectly. Pascal Siakam is not a number one ball scorer. He's great, but he's not a Tyrese Halliburton. So if the Nets' only win was against a team that was lacking a scorer, How do you strategize around defending Cade Cunningham constantly in a game where the Detroit offense will flow through him, but also at the same time, the Nets are going to have to try and replicate what they did against Indiana. And on the defensive end of the floor, that looks like a completely different assignment. Jordi Fernandez is going to have to approach that well because you don't defend Cade Cunningham. He goes off for 35 points. This Nets team has already dug themselves into a grave. So it's all about defending that number one score. How you roll with it. But again, you can't defend Cade Cunningham. You don't give yourself a shot because Detroit is a very solid team all around. They are not just a one-dimensional team like the Brooklyn Nets are. Nets are probably a no-dimensional team, but the Pistons are a multi-dimensional team with guys who fit their role well. And boy, the day that comes for the Nets should be a great one. For now, though, they're going to have to continue to figure that out. 24.5 points a game for Cade so far this year. 9.6 assists. He is averaging that double-double. And he has played extremely well. He did last year, and he continues that again this year. And then between Jalen Duran, and Ausar Thompson, this is a Pistons team that can elevate with athleticism, with rebounding, with scoring around Cade Cunningham, and continues to grow as a team. And then the role players, Caris LeVert, he should get a warm welcome from the Brooklyn crowd. He's already been back, obviously, since 2021 with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but it'll be his first time gearing up at the Barclays Center in a new Detroit uniform. Overall, this is going to be a very tough team to beat if you're Brooklyn. Again, stay competitive, keep yourselves in it. The scoring will come if you play good enough defense, but that's what has to be nervous to you. As a Brooklyn Nets fan, this has been the worst defensive team in the league so far, and you're talking about an A-tier scorer coming into your building. And I'm sure the coaching staff is going to urge him to shoot it because they know the Nets have trouble rebounding. They know the Nets have trouble giving up second chance points. Happens way, way too much. So I'm sure the Pistons coaching staff gives Cunningham, gives Ivy, gives Thompson the green light to try and shoot the lights out at the Barclays Center in game number 1 of the in-season tournament. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. You're listening to the Brooklyn Boys Show live. Continue to put questions, comments, thoughts over in the chat. Continue to keep those rolling. Talking all things Nets. I will pull it up once more. Take another look at that NBA Cup group standings across the board. The West and the East. Pig comes in and says, West C looking like a very interesting group. Boy, there is a lot of firepower down in that bottom left corner in West Group C. Nuggets, Warriors, Rockets, Blazers, and Spurs. You're probably looking at 4 teams that strongly believe they can contend for the finals in the West. That should be a very, very fun group to watch. And only one team is going to end up winning that division. You could see the wild card team come out. If you're not 100% sure how the rules work, it is 8 of the 30 teams make the NBA Cup playoffs. That's the 6 division winners and then 1 wild card for each conference gets the bye to go through. So for the Nets, that is probably playing to a 3-1 record over the in-season tournament. Maybe a good 2-2, but the rest of that B division has to be very mediocre. But there's a world in which the Nets, sneak out a win here or there. The other teams battle it out with each other. Things fall into place. The Nets are in a good position to at least compete for that one seed in the final 1-2 weeks. But at the end of the day, this team has to figure out how to win games first before we can call them contending for anything, let alone a division win against 4 prominent teams. But yeah, man, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Rockets, the Spurs. Oh my goodness. Wemby, KD, Curry, and Jokic all contending for 1, maybe 2 spots is ridiculous. And LeBron's Lakers up in that West Group B, I guess it's Luka's Lakers right now, while LeBron is still hurt, contending to try and win their second in-season tournament championship. See if AR can go crazy again. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. West Group C. I'll put out a prediction here. This is so hard, but I'll go Spurs. Spurs only have 1 loss on the year so far. And, boy, Denver and Wemby, Jokic and Wemby, excuse me, should be a very, very intriguing center duo there in that matchup when it happens. But KD and Curry, the former Warriors, they won a chip together. They're going head to head, so nothing but interesting stuff across the board. West Group C should be an interesting one. East Group B, I'll get my prediction as well. I think it's going to be the Magic. They have the tools to unlock their way through the other competition in this group. I don't think Boston's able to compete without Tatum. I don't think the Nets are able to compete with Orlando just because they're, not a good basketball team. Philadelphia. Excuse me, I do not know what just happened there, but my thing lagged out. That is on me. Sorry about that. I had to go and come right back, but my mic just got unplugged, I think is what it was. But hit the like and subscribe if you're still tuned in with us. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Had to run. I will pull back up that shot we were just on. Bear with me for a second here. There we go. Sorry about that. Magic probably to win that group. Philadelphia and Detroit is where I was. Probably the only 2 to compete. I just think on a pure scoring level, Banchero and Cade Cunningham would be such a fun duo to watch. That would be a great duel, especially with, group win on the line. Banchero, Cunningham, 2 former number 1 overall picks, 2 of the biggest scoring threats in the East, going at it head to head, horn to horn. That would be a great one to watch. Philadelphia, though, man, do not mess with them. They can certainly beat you and bully you down in the paint if you let them. And, boy, East Group C, probably the next run away with it. I mean, there's no team in there that probably even challenges the Knicks. If the Knicks don't go 3-1 in that East Group C, you probably look at that as an L at the end of the day. And then the Cavaliers should be able to run the freaking table East Group A. Hawks, Raptors, that's the only team that can even probably put up a fight with Cleveland. Pacers and Wizards are laughable at this point. So you're probably looking at Cleveland coming out of East Group A. Smash that like, hit subscribe. As King Ribby R&M would love to tell you, he also got Sharon there. Pig comes back in. Josh, what did you say? this draw is a pretty lucky one. Seems like a group without the Bucks, Knicks, Bulls, Raptors, Detroit. Seems like the only major threat here, and I completely disagree with this take. Look up at East Group A and tell me that the Nets got lucky with that draw. You swap them out with any one of those teams, the Nets have a chance of going 2-2 in that group. You swap them out with the Cavs, the Nets probably end up going 2-2. And I know you can't get these these aren't hyper realistic situations. These are probably the best scenario in the world. You swap the Nets out with the Cavs, Hawks, Wizards. I bet you could take one of those. You're not going to beat the Raptors, but you just beat the Pacers, so you certainly have a chance there. The Nets would have a chance to contend in East Group A. I do not think that this is a lucky draw. I'll admit, that's kind of a tough one between C and B. C is probably a little bit harder, but don't underestimate B, man. That is Magic, Sixers, Pistons is 3 solid, probably top 6 teams when it's all said and done in the Eastern Conference. So do not count Group B out. This is a solid-looking group. And I would say Group C might be more intriguing just because of the firepower. The Knicks, we saw the run to go to the conference finals last year. The Bucks, who doesn't want to watch a little Giannis? The Bulls, man, they got off to the hottest start in the East. The Heat have a little something going for them. Between C and B, maybe I'd rather be in B, but it's close. It is certainly close. I do not think that the Nets, though, got lucky with this to come up here. And also, you have to think it's not just reshuffling the Nets, completely swapping them out with other teams. You're talking about completely redrawing all of these groups here. So, best case scenario, if we want to be to draw a best case scenario, probably Nets swap with Cleveland into Group A, and you throw Boston or Charlotte, probably Charlotte or maybe even Miami, into that Group A mix instead of Toronto. And that's probably the best chance you have at even coming close to advancing out of that division. But again, the Brooklyn Nets have to be able to string together wins to stay competitive in the Cup. And so far, they have won through 8 games. So do not get your hopes up, Nets fans. But here's what I will say. Out of everything to go on this year, man, there's a legitimate chance to win meaningful basketball games in November. Jordi Fernandez wants to elevate this team. It probably doesn't mean much to some of the other teams in this division. And let me say that. You think the Boston Celtics, a year removed from winning the NBA Finals, are going to celebrate if they make it out of Group B? Probably not. The Magic, the 76ers, the Pistons, teams with finals aspirations, going to be popping the champagne after a NBA Cup victory? Probably not. If there's a team that's hungry for it, it could be the Nets. Certainly could. But you can't buy in on anything yet. This team doesn't win. And that's the bottom line. So it doesn't matter how hungry you are when you have a terrible team. Let's get this thing going. Let's get these wins going together. Maybe, though, just maybe, this Nets team keeps it competitive, keeps it spicy down to that last Friday night, and is playing for a chance at maybe that Eastern wildcard spot. Maybe they need a couple dominoes to fall their direction. Everyone loses out and the Nets somehow pull off an upset, and you're somehow looking at the top of the group, and you're talking about probably playing the most meaningful basketball of the year, and then switch flips right back to, we'll play Tyrese Moore in 30 minutes tonight, right back to, we will be playing Jalen Wilson 25 minutes a night. And, oh, yeah, you think this Nets team's going to win? No, thank you. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe. Getting ready to wrap up here on the show. We'll get to a couple more of your questions, comments, and thoughts. Peoples Hernandez in the chat. Appreciate you tuning in. Peoples, he says, yo, you guessing these overrated teams up. What you talking about? Group B, Peoples? Because that is the most stacked group across the board that I can see. I think OKC, they have a fun group, but I just remember the Timberwolves don't have ants, so that might be a pretty lame showing up there. They're probably going to wipe the floor with that group. West B, could Coop bring his guys into contention with the Lakers? The Clippers could be a fun one. But probably just Luke at the end of the day. West C, though, is certainly going to be fun basketball to watch in. Whatever way it turns out, I will be locked in on the NBA Playing Cup. And I know, say whatever you want, but that's just the way it's going to go. Peoples also says, all this BS hype about Rockets and whoever else, who cares? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they will all go home. Yeah, I don't think it matters. To these big market teams with these big name superstars. You think KD needs to end his career with an in-season tournament win? You think Steph needs that to his resume? Oh, Steph. Let's add that to the Hall of Fame resume. In-season tournament win, baby. Jokic, the NBA champion, probably doesn't need that. So, yes, there is a lot of stuff. Peoples also says, Thunder going to win the chip again. They probably cakewalk through their Western A conference, man. Jazz, Kings, Antlers, T-Wolves, and Suns. Thunder are probably going to sweep that. And then all just comes down to the playoffs. But it's fun with these in-season tournaments. Give the bad teams a little bit of hope, a little bit of something to root for. That's why it's just so fun to be able to talk about, break down as a Brooklyn Nets fan, because we're sitting here on November 6th as a 1-7 basketball team. There's nothing else that's good going on right now, except for a smidge glimmer of hope. For the Nets move out of Group B, here we go. We'll put something out here. For the Nets move out of Group B, which is likely going to need a 3-1 record to move out of Group B. Whatever the top comment says, whoever wants to come on the show, you're coming on for an episode. Whoever wants me to go to whatever Nets game and sit courtside, I'll do that. Whatever. If the Nets make it out of Group B, I will be genuinely shocked in the best possible way. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. We continue to move throughout the chat. Pig says, don't be mistaken, Jokic is still the best player in the league, but the Nuggets just won't make it. That's just such a stacked group, man. Let's continue to move down. I was just talking about all these teams like Rockets or Fakers. They're all going to crumble. And he says the Magic suck. That should be interesting. Peoples Hernandez, they'll probably find a way to beat the Brooklyn Nets by 20 plus. And then, final one here. Josh, you know the Thunder are going to win because they have the best defense. Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, the bald boy demons, baby. The bad, bad boys on the block. That was a fun finals to watch from OKC, and it kind of sucks that all this stuff with the injuries and such is happening to Indiana because, man, they cannot catch a break. And they're off to an equal 1-7 start with the Brooklyn Nets. And you can't beat the Nets, you're going to have trouble beating anyone this year. Appreciate you all tuning in as we got to break down everything you need to know ahead of the in-season tournament for the Brooklyn Nets. We will obviously have extensive coverage of the Pistons game tomorrow night, tipping off from the Barclays, 7 or 7:30. 7:30 tomorrow night, tipping off at the Barclays. We'll have full coverage. We will probably not have a pregame show, but stay tuned on the postgame, baby. Hopefully we're talking about the Nets grabbing their first in-season tournament win. But for now, all we can do is hope. To everyone who joined us, wire to wire, you guys are the best. Listening live, listening after the fact. Appreciate it just as much. A couple away from 500. Do us that favor. Hit subscribe. Thank you very much. I'm Josh Wooliver for the Brooklyn Boys. Oh my goodness. Gonna have to redo that. I'm Josh Wooliver for the Brooklyn Boys Show. Saying have a great night, everybody. Stay safe. And as always, let's go Nets, baby. See you tomorrow. Peace.